For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On March 25, 2001, American backpackers Jake Williams, 26, and Sarah Martinez, 24, disappeared while hiking in Mexico's remote Chihuahua desert near the border town of Ojinaga. The couple from Arizona had been documenting desert wildlife for a photography project when they failed to return from what was planned as a 3-day expedition. Mexican authorities and U.S. Border Patrol conducted searches throughout the harsh desert terrain but found no trace of the missing hikers. For 6 years, their disappearance remained an unsolved mystery that occasionally surfaced in missing persons databases and border security reports. Then, in April 2007, German tourists exploring off-trail areas made a grisly discovery that would finally reveal the deadly circumstances that had claimed the lives of both hikers in one of North America's most unforgiving environments. This is the complete story of their disappearance and the brutal natural trap that had kept their fate hidden in the desert wilderness for over half a decade. March 25, 2001, began with perfect weather conditions in the Chihuahua Desert, with clear skies and moderate temperatures that would later climb to dangerous levels by afternoon. Jake Williams and Sarah Martinez had driven from Tucson, Arizona, to the Mexican border town of Ojinaga to begin their ambitious photography expedition documenting desert ecosystems and wildlife. Jake, who worked as a freelance nature photographer, had been planning the project for over a year as part of his portfolio documenting North American desert environments. Sarah, a biology graduate student at the University of Arizona, was conducting research on desert plant adaptations and saw the expedition as an opportunity to gather data for her thesis while supporting Jake's photography work. The couple had obtained proper permits from Mexican authorities and had carefully planned their route through remote areas of the Chihuahua Desert that rarely saw human visitors. Their equipment included professional camera gear, camping supplies for 3 days, and GPS devices that would later prove insufficient for their survival needs. They had registered their itinerary with both Mexican officials in Ojinaga and U.S. Border Patrol agents, indicating they planned to hike approximately 40 kilometers into the desert interior before returning to their base camp near the Rio Grande. The route would take them through areas known for unique geological formations and diverse cacti species that were central to both their research interests. Local guides in Ojinaga had warned them about the extreme heat, dangerous wildlife, and navigation challenges the desert presented, but Jake's experience with desert photography and Sarah's academic knowledge of desert ecology gave them confidence in their ability to handle the challenging environment safely. The couple departed Ojinaga at 6:30 a.m. in a rented Jeep Cherokee, driving to a remote access point approximately 25 kilometers from town where a rough dirt road ended at the edge of the true desert wilderness. Their plan called for establishing a base camp at this location and making day hikes deeper into the desert to photograph and document specific species and formations. Security footage from a Mexican military checkpoint showed them passing through at 7:45 a.m., with both appearing excited and well prepared for their expedition. Border guards later remembered Jake mentioning his photography project and Sarah discussing her research on desert plant survival mechanisms. The couple established their base camp around 9 a.m. and began their first day hike toward a series of unusual rock formations approximately 8 kilometers into the desert interior. These formations were known to support rare cacti species that Sarah wanted to study and that Jake hoped to photograph in the optimal lighting conditions of late afternoon. Their last communication was a satellite phone call to Jake's brother in Tucson at 4:30 p.m. on March 25, reporting successful photography of several target species and confirming their planned return to base camp before dark. The call indicated they were healthy, enthusiastic about their discoveries, and proceeding according to their original schedule. When Jake and Sarah failed to return to their base camp by the morning of March 27, Mexican authorities were notified by U.S. Border Patrol agents who had been expecting the couple to check in at the border crossing as scheduled. The initial search operation began on March 28 with Mexican military units and local guides from Ojinaga coordinating efforts to locate the missing Americans. The vast scale of the Chihuahua Desert and the extreme heat made searching extremely challenging, requiring careful timing of operations to avoid dangerous daytime temperatures. Search teams found the couple's abandoned base camp exactly where they had established it, with most of their equipment and supplies still properly stored and secured. Their Jeep was properly parked and locked, with camping gear, extra food, and backup equipment suggesting they had planned to return as scheduled. However, their personal hiking packs, cameras, research equipment, and emergency supplies were missing, indicating they had departed on foot for their planned day hike but never returned. GPS coordinates from their satellite phone's last transmission provided searchers with a general area to focus their efforts. The search area encompassed approximately 200 square kilometers of desert terrain characterized by extreme heat, dangerous wildlife, complex topography, and vegetation dominated by massive cacti species including giant saguaros and barrel cacti that could reach heights of over 15 meters. Helicopter overflights provided aerial surveillance of vast areas but were limited by heat conditions and the desert's uniform appearance, which made spotting individual hikers or their equipment extremely difficult from the air. Ground teams faced even greater challenges navigating the challenging terrain while carrying sufficient water and supplies for extended operations. Advanced search techniques available in 2001 included thermal imaging equipment and specialized desert rescue teams experienced in extreme environment operations. However, the desert's vastness and harsh conditions made comprehensive searching nearly impossible within the time frame when survivors might still be found alive. Search dogs were brought in from El Paso, Texas, but the extreme heat and dry conditions made scent tracking extremely difficult. The desert environment quickly eliminated human scent traces, and the dogs were unable to establish definitive trails indicating where Jake and Sarah had traveled from their base camp. U.S. Border Patrol agents coordinated with Mexican authorities to ensure comprehensive coverage of areas near the international border, as investigators considered the possibility that the couple might have become disoriented and wandered toward U.S. territory while seeking help. After 2 weeks of intensive searching involving over 150 personnel from both sides of the border, the formal rescue operation was scaled back due to the extreme conditions and the low probability of finding survivors after extended exposure to desert heat and dehydration. The case remained active as a missing persons investigation, with periodic follow-up searches when weather conditions permitted and new tips or reported sightings emerged. However, the desert's challenging environment made systematic searching of all potential areas virtually impossible with available resources. Throughout 2002 and 2003, both families maintained contact with Mexican and U.S. authorities while organizing private search expeditions during cooler months when desert conditions were more favorable for extended operations. The case generated attention among desert hiking communities and missing persons organizations throughout the southwestern United States. Professional search and rescue organizations contributed expertise and equipment to periodic searches, but the vast scale of the potential search area and the desert's extreme conditions continued to present insurmountable challenges for comprehensive coverage. In 2004, skeletal remains found in a different area of the Chihuahua Desert initially raised hopes for resolution, but forensic analysis determined they belonged to an unidentified individual who had died years earlier and were unrelated to the missing American hikers. The case was featured in several television programs about missing persons in border regions, generating tips and reported sightings throughout Mexico and the southwestern United States. However, none of these leads provided concrete evidence about Jake and Sarah's fate or location. By 2006, 5 years after the disappearance, most official search efforts had ceased, though the case remained open and families continued supporting search and rescue organizations throughout the region. The couple's disappearance had become part of the grim statistics of people who vanished in the harsh desert borderlands. April 12, 2007, began as an adventure day for Klaus and Ingrid Weber, German tourists who were spending 2 weeks exploring Mexico's desert regions as part of their annual hiking vacation. The retired couple had hired a local guide to show them remote areas of the Chihuahua Desert that were rarely visited by international tourists. Their guide, Manuel Herrera, was familiar with unmarked areas of the desert and had been taking small groups of adventure tourists to locations featuring unique geological formations and cacti species for over 15 years. The group was exploring an area approximately 15 kilometers from where Jake and Sarah had established their base camp 6 years earlier. Around 2:15 p.m., while photographing a grove of giant barrel cacti in a remote canyon area, Klaus noticed what appeared to be artificial materials caught among the spines of a particularly large cactus specimen. The object's unnatural coloration and texture stood out against the desert environment and warranted closer investigation. Approaching carefully to avoid the dangerous cactus spines, Klaus realized he was looking at human remains that had been impaled on the long, sharp spines of the massive barrel cactus. The skeletal remains were positioned in a way that suggested the person had fallen or been thrown against the cactus with considerable force. Guide Herrera immediately recognized the significance of the discovery and contacted Mexican authorities using his satellite communication device. Within hours, specialized recovery teams were traveling to the remote location to investigate what would prove to be the first concrete evidence about the missing American hikers. The recovery operation required extreme care due to the dangerous nature of the giant cactus spines, some of which were over 10 centimeters long and strong enough to penetrate completely through human tissue. Specialized equipment was used to safely extract the human remains while preserving evidence and avoiding injury to recovery personnel. Initial examination at the scene revealed personal items that immediately suggested a connection to the missing American hikers. A camera bag caught on nearby cactus spines contained equipment and identification documents that belonged to Jake Williams, providing the first concrete evidence about his fate after 6 years of uncertainty. The skeletal remains were positioned in a way that indicated the victim had fallen against the cactus from a significant height, possibly after climbing on rocks or other cacti in the area. The brutal nature of the impalement suggested death had occurred quickly after the fall. Further searching of the immediate area revealed additional human remains approximately 50 meters away, also associated with cactus damage but not impaled like the first discovery. Personal items found with these remains were identified as belonging to Sarah Martinez, indicating that both hikers had died in the same remote location. Evidence suggested that one or both hikers had been attempting to climb elevated positions, possibly to get better views for photography or to navigate by spotting landmarks in the distance. The climb had ended tragically when one person fell onto the deadly cactus spines. Forensic analysis conducted by Mexican authorities confirmed that the remains belonged to Jake Williams and Sarah Martinez. The condition of the remains and associated equipment indicated they had been exposed to desert conditions for approximately 6 years, consistent with their 2001 disappearance. Investigation of the scene revealed that the couple had been attempting to photograph or study the grove of giant cacti when the fatal accident occurred. Jake's camera equipment showed evidence of use immediately before the tragedy, with partially exposed film containing images of the cacti formations and Sarah conducting her research activities. The location where they died was approximately 12 kilometers from their base camp, suggesting they had been exploring further into the desert than their original itinerary indicated. The remote canyon area was not visible from helicopter overflights and had never been searched during the 2001 rescue operations. Evidence suggested that Jake had been climbing on rock formations near the cacti, possibly to achieve better camera angles for his photography project, when he fell and was impaled on the massive spines of a barrel cactus. Sarah appeared to have died while attempting to help him, possibly from dehydration and exposure after being unable to free him from the cactus spines. The tragic accident explained why extensive search efforts in 2001 had failed to locate any trace of the missing hikers. The canyon location was completely hidden from aerial searches and was accessed only through difficult terrain that search teams had not prioritized during their limited time frame. The discovery brought closure to both families after 6 years of uncertainty, though learning the brutal circumstances of Jake and Sarah's deaths was devastating. The evidence showed they had been together at the end and that Sarah had likely tried to save Jake after his impalement accident. The case highlighted the extreme dangers that desert environments could present to even experienced outdoor enthusiasts, particularly when activities like rock climbing or photography required taking risks in unfamiliar terrain. The couple's tragedy became a cautionary tale about desert safety and risk assessment. Klaus and Ingrid Weber were recognized by both Mexican and U.S. authorities for their careful handling of the discovery and their immediate notification of officials when they realized the significance of what they had found. Their actions finally provided answers that extensive professional searches had been unable to achieve. The location where Jake and Sarah died was documented and marked to prevent similar accidents, though its remote location meant few people would ever visit the area. The site serves as a reminder of both the desert's deadly beauty and the unpredictable dangers that can claim even prepared visitors. Desert safety organizations throughout the southwestern United States use the case to develop improved education programs about the specific dangers that large cacti species present to hikers and photographers. The couple's deaths contributed to better awareness of desert hazards. Jake Williams and Sarah Martinez's story serves as both a tragedy and an important reminder of the deadly hazards that desert environments can present to visitors seeking to document or study their unique ecosystems. Their passion for desert photography and research led them into a natural environment that claimed their lives in a particularly brutal manner. The 6-year delay in discovering their remains illustrates how thoroughly desert environments can conceal evidence, even during extensive search operations. The remote canyon location had been completely invisible to aerial searches and inaccessible to ground teams during the critical time period when rescue might have been possible. For Mexican and U.S. search and rescue organizations, the case provided crucial lessons about the challenges of desert operations and the need for extended search periods that account for the vast scale of potential search areas in desert environments. The persistence of both families in maintaining pressure for continued searches and keeping the case active contributed to the recognition of the German tourists' discovery as significant evidence. Their 6 years of uncertainty ended with devastating but necessary closure about their children's fate. The case demonstrates how professional outdoor activities like nature photography and biological research can encounter unpredictable natural hazards that transform educational expeditions into deadly situations. While Jake and Sarah's work reflected their passion for desert ecology, it also highlighted the need for extreme caution around dangerous plant species. Environmental research and photography continue in the Chihuahua Desert, with professionals now more aware of both the region's natural beauty and the specific dangers that giant cacti present to visitors. The intersection of scientific work and natural hazards provides ongoing lessons for desert safety. As of 2007, new safety protocols recommend that desert photographers and researchers work in larger groups and avoid climbing activities near dangerous cacti species. Jake and Sarah's deaths established awareness that helps protect other professionals working in similar environments throughout North American desert regions. Their story continues to educate desert visitors about the importance of recognizing natural hazards and maintaining safe distances from dangerous plant species, while their memory lives on through the safety improvements that resulted from their tragic encounter with one of the desert's most deadly natural features.